said
her
more.
story?
Do you think it was malicious or a mistake?
Coming out of the school system, I know how some of the games are played. I do know that assigning students to non-load-bearing teachers, the teacher is still responsible for that student. They're still in the classroom. So all you're doing is making a paper transfer for the week. And I've instructed teachers in Lake County, do not sign anything that is not a clear and accurate reflection of what you're doing.
So back to Ricky's question, do you buy her story?
I'm not here to dispute or I do know there's a problem in Lake County. I do know there's an issue with class size, and I do know that Lake County has a history of trying to provide classroom instruction on the cheap.
She said more than 3 or 4 times that the statute is complicated, it's hard to enforce. Is it as complicated as she says it is?
Well, I think the statute itself probably isn't bad. That was a clear constitutional amendment voted on by voters. I think the way the Department of Education has interpreted that, it can be confusing, but still we do know that in elementary schools, they need to have 18 students. And the parents who voted for this are walking away with an understanding that there's only 18 students in that elementary school class. That in a high school, there's only a maximum of 25 students. So the interpretation by the Department of Education may be confusing, but I think the voters were very clear in what they passed in that amendment.
So implementing it on the school level doesn't seem difficult, like the numbers are very clear in black and white.
Well, I think, again, the parents have that understanding that these are the maximum numbers for core classes.
So do you think somebody needs to be punished, or what do you want to see?
I would think that as they do their investigation, the professional code of ethics is very clear on submitting false paperwork, making false statements, and that if someone has shown to do that, whether it was intentional or by accident, that some responsibility has to take place.
Did the teachers come to you before all of this came out and said, hey, I've got 28 students, I'm supposed to have 25?
Yes, they have.
And what did you do about it?
I initially talked to people at the county office and was instructed to tell teachers, do not sign anything that is false or inaccurate. And I conveyed that to our membership. And as more have come forward, I've told them, again, your professional ethics are on the line.
They're coming to you, but they're not going to the superintendent.
And then I'm conveying the information to the people at the county office.
You seem to have a hard time telling teachers to come forward. Do you think that teachers are afraid to talk to Dr. Moxley?
Okay, I think one of the biggest problems is we have a lot of teachers on annual contracts. And if you're on an annual contract, then you are pretty much at the mercy of your principal. So if the principal says, please do this, and that principal decides whether you have a job next year or not, you're going to be more likely to say, yes, I'll do that. We've asked for protection for our annual contract teachers for continued employment, have not received that. And so I think that is one of the biggest problems, are a lot of teachers are just scared.
What do the principals have to gain by lying?
Well, they're being evaluated this year based on student outcome, performance of the school. So it's an ego thing that I'm meeting class size amendment, I'm doing all of the things, and also they get to determine whether those teacher allocations that they get in the school are classroom teachers or non-load-bearing teachers, and i.e. like a reading coach or an extra person for other activities. So that principal gets to decide where that allocation goes.
When did teachers start coming to you, and when did you talk to staff here? Was that before the report? Or
That was back in October, September, October.
around the same time this was all happening.
And Stuart, just to be clear, you told me that they came to you saying they were being asked to sign
Sign-
false rosters.
right,
Is that
right,
correct?
yes.
Have you had more teachers, even more teachers come forward since this whole issue's come to light over the last couple of weeks?
Oh, yes.
How many more?
I don't know exactly, but I do know in every case I said, make sure that what you sign is a correct reflection of your classroom. And what they're saying is, well, they took the student out on paper and assigned them to a non-load bearing teacher. And then I came back saying, are they in your class? Are you teaching them? Are you responsible for their grades? Then make the correction that they are still in your class.
So Dr. Moxley says the first she heard about it was December when the state launched the investigation. Are you saying that timeline isn't correct? She knew in October when you were telling her?
I know, I've talked to people at the county office, whether they conveyed that directly, but when I talked to some of the staff, they said, convey to teachers not to sign anything false or inaccurate.
So they were coming to you saying, we were being asked,
Yes.
what did they say to you?
That they're being asked to sign a roster where 2 or 3 students are in their class, they're responsible for their grades, but they don't show up on the roster.
Which is wrong.
I believe so.
And when you say county office, I'm sorry, is that the district, that's not the school board, but that's like her, somebody, I don't
In
know,
her
HR or
staff,
somebody?
yes.
You believe what these teachers are telling you
Oh,
is
yes.
happening, happened?
Yes.
Ballpark, how many teachers have talked to you?
Let's just say, I think it's involving more than the 6 schools that have been identified.
What does that say to you about the culture of the school district?
I think that their pressure is to try to do everything you can to at least seemingly apply or comply with the laws. And we know that, you know, again, less than 51% of the budget is actually spent in the classrooms.
First, last name and title for us.
Thanks, Stuart.
Stuart Platt, K-L-A-T-T-E, and I'm the president of Lake County Education Association.
Meaning you deal with their teachers.
Teachers union, if you will, to put it in a outside vernacular.
STUAR.
STUAR,